So we just gonna jump right into it and see what this Black is Night. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I don't even like vampire movies. So the only reason I even looked at it was because the title is Black is Night, and then I saw that it was like an all-black cast. Right. And I'm supporting anything black. So I decided to watch it, and my husband actually likes that kind of stuff. So after I watched it, I was side-eyeing it, and I was like, let me watch this with my husband, because maybe I'm tripping. And then we both watched it, and we barely got through it. We kept pausing and having conversation about it because it was so much to unpack with it. And the very first scene was when it started to become problematic for me. But I was like, okay, let me just let it go, because the title and then all of that, maybe that will all tie in and make something will happen at the end where all of that will be justified. Are you doing spoiler alerts with this, or can we just talk freely? Okay, cool.
Freely spoiler alerts. Y'all know how I get down, so
okay, cool. So in the first scene, when she says, she's sitting on the, she's sunbathing with her friend. He's getting a tan, and she covered up with the hat and all that. And he goes, "Get some of the sun." And she goes, "I ain't trying to get no darker." I was like, here we go.
I remember that.
Here we go with the nonsense.
Melanin need that. Come on.
Right. So I was like, okay, so we gonna do the colorism thing now. But I was like, okay, well, the name of the movie is Black as Night. So maybe this is that has something to do with it. That I was like, okay, so
interesting.
So maybe that's gonna all tie it in, because she was like, it seemed like it was over exaggerated that she had this issue with her color, her darkness, and then her brother calling her Wesley Snipes. And I was like, okay, clearly they trying to go somewhere with this darkness thing. So maybe it'll redeem itself in the end. But to me, it kind of fell short of doing that. But my husband had other issues with it as well.
Okay, so I would just like to put some guardrails on this conversation, and so I think it's fair that we start with asking the question, two questions. I kind of felt my patience meter went up when I kept asking myself. I said, okay, well, every great movie, you would assume it generates dialogue and discussion. It's something to make you think.
Right.
But my question is, when is too much questioning, too much open up of avenues for thought, even amongst cultural lines? Now, I at one point, like, for example, me and my wife was having so much black talk that I had to kind of dial it back, and there was another valid question. I was like, well, how do people who are not black are viewing this? Right. And for most part, some of the stuff was so outrageously like rubbing against your hairs for black people that I felt like I couldn't even imagine what a white person or a Caucasian or Asian person who was watching this would think about it. So that's one. Is a film that is obviously designed to make you think and make you question and to create dialogue, which is all great films. Right. Can it be too much of that?
Yeah, because when it starts taking away from the movie, the entertainment aspect of it, I can see that it could be too much of that.
What was your opinion on the movie? Because you like vampire movies, and you ain't blatantly black like that.
Let me hear my second question.
Yeah, let's hit you.
Now, my second question, parallel with that, is for all of your fans who are vampire buffs. Like my wife said, she really went into vampire movies. So I watched vampires since I was a little kid, and so I have a certain expectation of what I think a vampire, even in a new age film, or as you discussed, even if something like a vampire movie made for kids. Like, I immediately thought of Eddie Murphy's.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Never seen it. Never seen it.
Yeah, but it's something that's a little step away from the traditional vampire, but it still held, those traditional lines.
It's funny.
I love Eddie Murphy, so I'll check it out.
So later on, it'll come out, the questions that I have when they deviated from these traditional things that caused problems with me watching that. I was like, well, what kind of vampire movies? I began to question that.
So I'm curious to hear what your opinion is, because you're not like super bliggity black like we are. And then I want to Bliggity Black. Well, we just be thinking about it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about so I don't know anything about vampires. So when the girl gets bit and then she doesn't turn into a vampire, I didn't understand that. And so I stopped the movie and I asked him, well, what are they getting this right? Like with the garlic and all that stuff and her not turning because she didn't actually die. And so he explained to me the intricacies and all the stuff that usually traditionally happens with vampires. And he also explained to me that about, vampires being of a certain caliber as well. Because they've lived for so long, they're supposed to be a certain kind of person. Right. And then I started thinking about the few vampire movies that I have seen, like Twilight and like Bram Stoker's and Interview with a Vampire. Yes. They all were like cultured and smart and rich. Right. And this was like complete opposite to that. And then he explained... He went into this, so then we had a whole discussion about that, which we'll go into a little later. But I want to hear what your opinion was of the movie.
Yeah, this is great because, when I'm looking at movies, I love the vampire movies. But I'm like him. I grew up on, Lost Boys. Mm-hmm. The good stuff with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. Those are good ones. And they had 2-3 others. But anyway.
I heard you talk about it before on one of your other podcasts. And I was like, never seen it.
This is good.
I guess I'll watch it.
Now, when it comes to that, I took this at basically like face value. To me, it just looked like it was just one of those little teen, silly, okay, blah, blah, blah. Because I have an expectation. There's different kinds. So you have like your, like for instance with zombie, we have Zomcom, which is their like zombie comedy type stuff. Okay. So, and then you have your Bram Stokers and your Interview with the Vampire. They're a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more traditional England, English back in those type of times. Mm-hmm. They stick to the story. This was, it was just another one of them, like, it just seemed like it was like them hood, regular hood movie type stuff. And I didn't think about that. The traditional, they're usually rich, affluent. In this one, they had some projects. And he out there protesting
and turning homeless crackheads into vampires.
And let me say, because I feel like we should let's take it one point at a time, move it through. Because you didn't take it like that, it's going to be interesting, and I will purposely try to keep it within the rails.
No, we got to go deeper. Because I want to go deeper.
I feel like I should leave and let y'all do it.
Here's what comes later is going to come out again. Is that my question about traditional vampires and the point that she raised. So I immediately pointed out my wife that even if they went against, like they put a couple of good, like the Melanin, when they spent it towards the end, and anybody who traditionally watched the traditional was like, okay, well these vampires are out of the day.
Well,
that's something. And so they explained it. They said, oh, well they got melanin, which protects you from the sun, and maybe to the 10th degree, and so now vampires. Yeah, so it was a nice fix to deviating from the traditional. But let me say this: most of their fixes seemed it to me like an obvious backhand slap to the African American community. And I'm glad that you didn't take it like this, so you can tell me if I'm taking it too far. So, for example, the first thing that started us on the conversation was, and tell me how you felt about this. I said, okay, traditionally, all of the movies, vampire movies, have an expectation because vampires are living longer, they're stronger than everybody else. So even with Interview with a Vampire, where the little girl had been turned as a little child, she was very well educated, very well articulated. Mm-hmm. And so now, where you have segmented even amongst a black movie, you clearly knew who the African was versus the African Americans.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, okay, here you are, black African Americans in America, in Louisiana, in the South, that has been around since slavery. Mm-hmm. So all of this time from a creature who barely sleeps, cannot die, has nothing to do but think and maneuver in society.
And you niggas still in the project?
And you're still in the projects? Look, the back end, let me just run it. She already said, you're turning dope fiends and drug addicts. Your followers are living in the projects. You are living in a shamble of a broken down thing. Yeah. Your master plan is, you're out rebel rousing, like you're still in the civil rights era, which you lived through because you've been there since slavery. And so your whole ideal of I was offended. I felt like, oh, so you're saying if a genuine African American becomes a eternal being, he's still immature, and as the movie showed, which
on the bottom
was short, he is still waiting for others to come teach him the level of maturity he should just have by sitting around. Like, for example, why is it that the talk about melanated and being proud and knowing your color came from the African, as opposed to the African American who's fighting for black people's rights and clearly has a thing affinity for black folks? But you hadn't even evolved to that point. You're turning dope fiends, and your whole mindset is rank immaturity. So I felt like not only was that a deviated from the norm from the vampire genre, but it was purposeful. And when they centered it on, even in this scenario, African Americans are still immature, emotional. I felt like
Africans aren't. African Americans are.
Yeah, it goes with the whole FBA and the foundational Black Americans, which would be us, and then you have the Africans that's from that they were dropped off before here or whatever. It's a couple of things that you were saying. Man, now that I think about it, because usually these movies I'd be like, oh, okay, something thrown on in the background, they doing this and that and the other. But as you sit down and unpack these movies, because now as I'm becoming more aware with these different movies, there's a lot of stuff that's coming. I'm starting to notice things that's coming. Okay, so they piggyback with the LGBTQ community with the black struggle. That's one.
We didn't even catch.
No,
he caught it. Right. I didn't even think about that, but that makes sense.
And how he was saying how he didn't want to go to Texas because he was scared of white people, how they was going to treat him. Yes. Bruh, they don't be tripping to you like that. But okay, so that's the piggyback, and then you think about okay, the melanin. Here's one spin. Yeah, she was all like, "Oh no, I'm timid" in the beginning, but then that could have been like, hey, how they fix it. You need to be proud of your melanin. That's why you can walk in the daytime. This is a beautiful thing. You can be out, blah, blah, blah. So the little fix on that. But there's some other things that came up too. Poverty.
But let me just stop you there.
Okay.
So you keep a train of thought. But did you feel like because remember, you had two covenants.
Yes.
One covenant was clearly African American.
Yeah.
And everything about that covenant was retarded in the sense of intellectual.
Right.
And down to the point that while they're in one room talking about political activists, the other guy is in another room turning tricks with kids that obviously the reason why you let them in because y'all too young and beautiful.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Said, I don't usually like my women as dark as you.
Yeah. So let me say this. So not to take, I'm trying not to take it too far. Yeah. So like you pointed out, they fixed that aspect.
Just that one.
But did you feel offended that the fix came from Africans and they made it specifically clear because the other covenant? Everybody, they had the African little thing.
They had the sister come in.
They had clear African accents. But none of them like, oh, maybe that was an African American mixed in. That was clear African Americans and Africans.
Yeah.
And the Africans were the sophisticated.
Yeah. You know what? It was
traditional
one of those,
type vampires.
I didn't feel offended just because I like the message. You don't kill the messenger or whatever for that because I'm thinking about, hey, you got to be proud of your skin color. So whether it's coming from us or Africans, then hey, the truth is still the truth. Hey, you need to be proud of your melanated. Although we know how they sometimes, like I said, with the FBA and the Caribbean and stuff like that, we have this clash going on.
Yeah, and they think of themselves sometimes as above us because they aren't the descendants of slaves.
Right, but they're getting their, reparations and stuff. They're going through that. So, but anyway, the other aspect I was thinking of is and this is with a lot of movies, but they're always making African Americans be the head of this stuff. They're ushering in slowly but surely, almost like pedophilia, because they love the young. Now, traditionally, it's always a young virgin. That's the purest blood. That's where the vampires get their powers. So they're going to be that, but not. She's 15, 16. No, 16.
Yeah,
she's 16 years old, and they coming in. So that's already. And then they're already saying the black community be so homophobic. We're one of the most welcoming people in the world. We don't care. Like, even younger, it's like, oh, ain't nothing wrong with that child. He's just a little touch. Come on in and get some of this cornbread. Something like that. We're welcoming. So we don't even we don't care about none of that stuff, but they're ushering into that. And then there's so they're ushering into that. And then the poverty thing is like, bruh. Oh, this was the connection that popped up. With the preacher. So a preacher that always got to be some type of snake thing behind it, making it look bad.
We tolerate the. Well, let me say this. Let me stop before you get to the preacher.
No, that was good. Yeah.
Let me stop before you get to the preacher and put a magnifying glass on this. Because like I said, I had a problem after a while kind of stepping outside of myself and wondering how somebody who wasn't black saw this film. Right. So let's talk about the pairing. First of all, the sister who was the star of the movie, almost everything about her character is problematic. But I'm going to do something. You're going to have to reel this in. And we got to reel it in so we don't go far on the left.
I kind of feel where you're coming from. But
when you pair, first of all, I was offended because
I told you.
You paired two people and tried to make them seem like they were the outcast of the black community, and the gay person was more acceptable than the person who had dark skin. Okay, so that was one that was problematic for me. But the other thing is, let's talk about a gender view. If you were to say, yes, African Americans clearly, even if it's the light brunt of a joke, we clearly got color issues amongst ourselves. So I kind of get that. Oh yeah, you so black, you look like right. That type of stuff you probably hear about family. Right. But you putting her on par with the flaming gay guy that almost to say, in the black community, they're both, like you're saying, pairing their struggles. They're both ostracized and they're both challenges, and that's that and other.
But he wasn't ostracized.
But let me take this, and then y'all take it. Y'all will listen where you want. This can go in two angles. For one, in this putting on the outskirts of the society, and you clearly making it seem like the gay, almost white-looking male,
the savior.
He was smarter. He was more
schooling
articulate.
Her on Black history in New Orleans.
He's in Louisiana, the most prideful people I know, short of Alabama. And like I told my wife, when my wife was like, "Well, I don't know if we can expect black folks to know so much about their history anywhere." I said, you take somebody white, somebody look Mexican looking or whatever, and you take them to Alabama, and then they turn around to Joe Blow, the neighborhood alcoholic, and say, "Hey man, let me tell you about the civil rights movement. He liable to get slapped in the mouth. How dare you?" So I'm like, so now you got this dude, he telling them about what happened during slavery in Louisiana, where they're from. So it wasn't just that, y'all are both on the outskirts and pairing your struggles, but it was like, well, even if we compare these two, a gay white male is so much better than a black predator. But let me say, so you can take it that way. Now, the other road, and I'm going to let you choose it. The other road is this. As a black male, I'm going to be fair and say certain issues that we have causes associated issues. Mm-hmm. So we usually don't see issues with ourselves and our people in isolated things. It usually comes in clumps. So one of the things that was problematic about this dark girl was, for one, she wasn't all that dark.
Her dad
For all of the black jokes she got, she wasn't all that dark.
She was chocolate, milk chocolate.
And her dad was way darker.
And for two, because I'm gonna come up with her what was really problematic about her later on, and her later on, her boo. The other thing is that here's a full disclosure. When I see the typical truth in that angry black woman, it's usually because she got an attitude. She probably got a mad look on her face. You know, whatever you want to justify. Maybe she was at work. Maybe she tried dealing with BS. Maybe she tried, but she got a mad look on her face. She's a little bit aggressive. She's maybe loud. And she black.
Right. That girl was none of those things.
That girl was at best
and educated, smart.
Yeah, she was. As a young girl, she was shy like she was supposed to be shy. Mm-hmm. She didn't know what to say to that dude. She went over there and got all out of pocket.
Right. Yeah, she was appropriate age. Age appropriate.
She didn't have boyfriends and wasn't sleeping around. That wasn't her character. We don't even know she didn't seem to do alcohol.
Wasn't
she seemed
ignorant.
So I'm sitting here like, so you have taken a character and attached one of the clusters and just isolated it on black. I kind of felt like that was an issue. Yeah. That was an issue for me. To kind of say that we would
throw her to the wolves just because she's dark.
Yeah, just because she's dark.
She had no other trait that you would attribute to your typical angry black woman other than she was dark. You know, she wasn't chubby. You know, like we get away from fat, they treat you bad. Yeah, you ugly. Yeah. You know, whatever. She's a beautiful girl. You ignorant and loud. She wasn't that. She came from a good home, even though her mom had her struggles with drugs. Her dad, she had a really good father, and it was just like, why is everybody coming down her?
And let me say this. I just want to add this. Once again, I was feeling this backhand slap because now you're raising the issue in the black community, which is an issue, something for us to look at, something for us to dialogue about. But my famous saying is, if you don't understand the problem, you'll never know how to fix it. So if you giving this slighted view as a problem, I feel like you're giving people avenues to say, well, what's wrong with her just because she's dark? And that is a ridiculous assumption to think that we just don't like people because they're dark. It's usually because they're dark, they loud, they got an attitude, they're a little aggressive. Now, one may have caused another, but by the time she becomes an outskirt, as, you know, we just going to put her over there with the gays, then it definitely ain't just because she's a chocolate, innocent sister.
Yeah, she wasn't promiscuous. She wasn't doing drugs. She wasn't doing nothing like that. Even her brother wasn't out tripping and doing that.
Even though he was kind of an a-hole.
He was.
A colorist.
So where you know, after you do that, let's hear.
Yeah, so when I first watched it, I watched it by myself. Mm-hmm. Like I told you, I didn't know anything about traditional vampires or none of that. The reason it was a problem for me was strictly the colorism. Yeah. And all the dark and the Wesley. I was offended that they used Wesley Snipes as an example. Like, he's a human being. Like, he's an actual person. Yeah. Why would you do that? Like, it just bothered me. Like, that whole dark thing bothered me a lot. And I feel like they didn't adequately remedy it if there wasn't, they didn't close the loop at the end.
They do that a lot in movies.
They had the African, and I hate that. That really irritates me. And Black is beautiful. Wesley Snipes ain't no ugly dude. Like, it just bothers me that they equate dark with ugly.
Right.
Because when she went to the house, he said, I don't usually like my girls this dark, but what you lack in beauty, you make up for in age. And so he said dark beauty. So he equated her being dark with lacking beauty. That gets on my nerves. And so I was just waiting for them to remedy that, because I figured that was the whole thing, because the movie is called Black as Night. So I was thinking, okay, well, the whole thing is going to be about her being dark, especially after they start throwing all the, all the jokes and stuff about her skin. So I'm waiting for them to remedy this, and then they bring Bobineau. Bobineau, was that his name? Oh, no. Bobineau was Keith David. Tunde was his name. They bring Tunde, the African, and he tells her, there was a beautiful black girl. She was dark as night or whatever, and everyone wanted to be like her, and they would be in the sun for hours trying to be like her. Right. And then that was it. Like, huh?
But it smacked of, just like it smacked of the gay dude talking about the history of the plantation house that they was in. It smacked of, you niggas don't know your history. That's what it smacked of. And so I'm just like, okay, so the gay person knows the black people history, the African knows the black people history, but the black people don't, and even the black
who are from here, whose mom was in Katrina, who they whole house like they, what? What is happening here? It was just crazy. The whole movie was crazy, and there was just a whole new level when he watched it. And we were talking about how we were expecting the vampire. Well, he was, because, like I said, I don't know about vampires, but the vampires are traditionally smart and educated and wealthy and well articulated. And then we were just talking about how ignorant these vampires were, and then here come the Africans who fit the traditional sense of a vampire. And so again, it's causing this divide. Like, Africans are cool, but African Americans.
Now, let me say this. And the one, and I'm going to come back to something else too, but the one time that I was able to step out of being African American, where I felt like they was just steady strumming my hairs on my neck trying to piss me off. Right. The other time that I came out of that was, just tell me if you caught this, when the open-ended just left it hanging. The African vampire had explained to her that, we have been at war with their covens for, whatever, decades, right? So you already explained prior that this African American covenant has its origins in a slave. Mm-hmm. So, seeing that you do not explain why for centuries y'all two covenants have been at war, you're left for me to ask nothing else but, so why y'all at war now? Y'all trying to save the white folks?
Right. And we're still at the bottom again.
Why? Right. So if I was African, now let me take myself out the African American. If I was African, I would kind of be upset about that you place us in opposition to the African Americans. But in reality, in the setting of the movie, you can't label one reason why they're in opposition, other than the fact that the Africans are trying to save the white folks from this villainous, gutter, low bottom feeding vampires of African Americans, because they just can't do right. They just can't.
And see, the other thing was I was thinking about is, they're typically suave. Now, the one that had her in the bath, not the bath,
the pedophile guy.
I thought he was more the head guy.
He seemed like a traditional vampire.
Suave, cool. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at Vampire in Brooklyn, he had the little Jerry curls, shag, real smooth to the ladies. Every movie, culture
they always woo the women.
And he did a great job playing that character.
But then you have Keith David is playing the thing.
Yeah, you didn't even realize he was a vampire till you was like, what?
Then he's like
somebody grandfather.
Yeah. Like, why are you living in this border? You don't even have a door. It's crackheads that got a door. You coming into the apartment. And people laying down all in front of the sink and stuff. Like, just poverty stricken. There should be. It would have been better if it was like one of your traditional mansions. All that beautiful stuff they could have used in Louisiana. The rich history. Yeah. And you see a lot of colorism because you got the Creoles. You bring them in the lighter and blah, blah, blah. So that's what he's probably talking about. He's too dark. He like the Creoles.
And then the brother had said that, he don't want you. He got a bunch of light-skinned Creoles.
Yep. And into, that comes out. They like that too. And so it's like...
Oh, yeah. She came in.
That's why they like her friend. They had to bring her in. The girl that knows about all the vampires.
Yeah, the girl who did the vampire book club.
She thick too.
No. But let me say, because I need you to whittle down this backhanded slap to the African.
The scene where they are shopping for their outfit to go to the plantation.
Oh, God.
So when she's like, I can't believe I'm in this neighborhood doing this, and she's like, my parents keep me busy. And then she starts naming all the stuff that she does.
Activities.
And I'm thinking, I'm equal. These are two girls that are the same age, high school students. They both clearly smart.
Yep.
And her parents keep a leash on her. And then the black girl that is like, I'm leaving. And she... And don't have nothing for her to get into. Like, she just roaming the place where her mama lived. What was the name of that place? The Ombre.
Yeah, Ombre. Yeah.
Yeah, the Umbro.
Yeah.
She just allowed to freely go into this crackhead infested crazy project.
Did you feel like that was a blackheaded slap, or was that accurate? That's a question.
It's like, my parents care about me, so this is what's happening with me. And obviously your parents don't care about you, so you...
Yeah, obviously that's a backhanded slap, but that's how the media portrays us in all the movies.
But that was ridiculous.
You connect affluent with, with usually white or light. And yes, that was, and it's not accurate because as what the says, the statistics say that African American women are some of the most smartest women,
most college educated for sure.
And
like myself,
you got several people. You got several examples of all this within the neighborhoods. They go back to you live in this neighborhood, and they're like, "Come on, you guys." And then who do they have walk through the store dressed like who's always the face?
The drag
trans, yeah. Who's the face of that all the time? Us, black men. Because, you know what I'm saying? So that whole scene was just...
Yeah, I didn't even pick up...
It's been there before, but now that I'm older, because automatically take you, Clueless. Like, oh my God. At the time, it's like, but now that I'm older and I've seen and lived, and you look at the scenes like, you guys, come on now.
Yeah.
And in those affluent neighborhoods be some of the most craziest stuff that be going on.
They
robbing,
jump off the chain.
Stealing, killing, drug-infested houses, and the grow houses and stuff. Where they usually be at these grow houses, be at these nice affluent neighborhoods, right? So then you're doing it, and she's just better than everything. Like, I can't believe my mom.
She's like, I can't believe I'm in this neighborhood and doing this.
What are you talking about?
And then at the end, she's like... when they get ready to go and do it on their own, she's like, I'm good. I'm white and I have a future and something to live for. I'm not doing that. Bye.
Yeah.
And I was like, she the only one with some brains. And the little gay boy, because he was like, he kept telling her, dude, this is a terrible idea. And he was always right.
Now, let me throw out
He had the black robe.
I really liked him, actually.
Let me throw out one other thing for your variety of audience and listeners. Now,
this is gonna be your longest episode ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm trying. This is gonna be my last to the left because, like I said,
some more stuff. We gonna watch movies. So this is good.
There was too much about this that I felt like you know, like what we just got into, maybe the like you said, the clueless, and then the traditional, and then okay, so maybe you have an angle where you're taking it in and you're saying this is how they always portray you. Y'all should really look at this. But I gotta feel like it was too much stuff. You don't know whether they're just saying, well, this is what they think about you, or are they saying this is what you really are. And that's why I started the question with saying, is it questioning? Is it too much? You know, but let me say
too many stereotypes.
I'm actually
okay. Go ahead.
I'm actually interested in. I need to look into this. Who made this film? Was it some black people or some white people? I really want to know that, because I feel like that would make me give it some ease. If it was some white people who made it, I would probably give it a little bit more.
Mary Lee Go is the director.
The plot thickens. What is she?
Known for...
Is she Asian?
Yes.
She's kind of far. I can't really see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she's known for... What else does she do?
She's a mulatto almost. Rise,
is she,
Phobias.
Is she the director, or is she the... Who wrote the screenplay?
Okay, so the writer... She's a director. The writer is Sherman Payne. This is where...
That sounds like a black person.
This is where you bring in all the...
Right.
The Inuits.
Sherman.
Sherman Payne is a writer and producer known for Charm City Kings, Shameless, which was...
that show on Showtime?
I think so. And Legacy.
Shameless. He did a black man did Shameless? Wow.
Oh,
yes.
Good God. Well, there you go. That show is problematic.
Trash. So he took that same thing and bringing all that into
bring
here.
It to the...
Wow. Okay, so Sherman Payne.
That says a lot.
But let me say this before I forget, and y'all on a good one. But this is for the audience. Last backhand slap, and this goes for anybody in the audience, any of your listeners who hadn't always been nice guys,
right? Who
hadn't always been on the straight and narrow, right? Now,
we discussed
I
that
often talk about Kika. Me and wife be sitting around and we see people who are at a certain point in their life. Mm-hmm. And what often comes up is a lot of times the focus is on, especially in our community, is like where they're at. You know, it's just like, how do we fix this problem? You know, basically it's the trying to kill a tree by hacking off the limbs.
Right.
Instead of kind of dialing it back and saying, how did they get there? You know what I'm saying? So we're always having that conversation when looking at a product of society and say, how do you get there? Like my wife is always saying, how do people get to smoking crack when you have so many examples of people who shouldn't smoke crack? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we start talking about gateway drugs and, you know, and that what I call turning out. You know, you are turned out slowly but surely to every little avenue that you're in. Now, you tell me if you feel different about this.
The scene where the boy, her little boo, pulls the door off and they go into go in to find out about this dude who they think, at this point, she thinks he's the leader and he's the reason her mom died.
Right.
So they go in there. And, you know, they tie him up and they interrogate him.
Right.
And then in the end, they're like, we got to kill him. Now, this is your
here's my point. Is we don't even have to talk about murder. We can talk about robbery. I'm sure every person or a lot of people listening to your podcast at some point has stole something. Okay. Maybe a few have robbed actual people. And maybe a few have actually pulled a pistol on somebody and told them to break yourself. Now, what I'm telling you and what I know, and what I'm sure most of y'all authors know, is that there's a progression. There isn't nobody who has the juice. That's what I was mad about if anybody watched the Juice model. Remember the Juice with Tupac?
Yes.
I felt that was so inauthentic to black experience where all of a sudden a black male gets a gun and it's just, nigga, I'm crazy. you all should be scared of me because I got a gun.
Right.
And I'm like, it don't happen like that.
It's not even like that.
It's not even like that. So I feel like anytime, much like Juice, anytime you jump all of the, what I call turnouts, but all of the lines of progression from naive little kid to cold-blooded killer, then what you're implying is they already had that in them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm sitting here at this point, I am upset at the movie because we were just talking before they went in there about the boy and how he gets because Kika had already seen the movie. So I'm like,
Right.
well, how's this gonna get there? Is he telling drugs in the building? All we know, she sent him there. And then he was denying that he was there. I was like, oh, well, maybe he's a drug dealer. Maybe they're going to say later on he was dealing drugs, which turned out not to be the case.
He was just embarrassed.
He was just embarrassed.
Yeah.
He wasn't drinking, taking advantage of the girls at the club. So you had no criminal. You know, I said it when we were trying to figure out, when that scene jumped off, why he was in it. I told my wife, I said, it's because of my biases from the black, for black males, that I'm already assuming, oh, he has to be a drug dealer, or maybe he's
something with the
something.
dude, yeah.
So when he goes in, this is how I felt. Y'all, I'm gonna let y'all take it from here. When they go from, here's a girl who's innocent, sweet, running around with her little flaming little friend,
Right.
I like him. He's the reason I watched
She
it.
ain't really got no attitude. She's not even overly aggressive.
Not at all. She's
shy.
she acting her age.
But then she
And
goes
so-
from that to,
Then
I gotta
she
kill
goes-
him.
Yeah, she goes that.
Huh?
I'll kill him. So I felt like
They're implying that black people are inherently violent.
Right.
And at any moment, a nigga will kill you.
You just put something
Even
a
the
weapon
most,
in their hand and they
even the smartest, most sweet, kindest black person, they can't help it. They can't help it. The niggas will kill you.
Right.
That's what it seemed like. And we were like, huh? He pointed it out to me. How'd she go from, oh, my mom, I'm gonna kill this dude.
I'm just growing breasts.
Right.
Finding myself in my skin. I don't want.
And I'm gonna kill this
And now
dude. Like,
she-
what?
murder ain't a problem for black folks.
Right.
Even
That's what
when
it
they
seemed
kids.
like. That was crazy.
Like,
That was crazy.
Usually you see in a movie where there's a point of progression where it's okay, this person is meek and mild, then they're going to snap. They're put in a situation like zombie movies. In zombie shows, the outbreak breaks out. Everybody running around.
And then they start to turn.
Yeah, then all of a sudden they have to actually defend themselves. And you say, you know what? Okay, so anybody in that type of situation, you can know.
You understand why they changed to that.
There was no
But this was at the
progression.
beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And she just like, I'm just killed it.
Walking out at night. And
I
Right.
said the same thing. I said traditional vampire, which we have seen. I said usually the prey becomes a killer in defense.
yeah.
In this movie,
That
they
was
got
the
the dude
opposite.
tied up, he's subdued, and they sitting around talking about, well, he just might tell on us. So,
We just got to kill him.
yeah, not tie him up, not keep him here, not gag his mouth, not put him in
And
the
the only person that was like, what? Was her
Was
friend.
voice
That was
of
like,
reason.
wait, killing people? What?
Yeah,
What?
He was the voice of reason throughout the whole movie. as you
Right,
can see.
but they
the only
was totally
only
down.
black person in the room.
Exactly.
Totally down with killing him.
Which brings me to
That was
another.
crazy.
Now I wanted to jump off that being a black people in the room. So when you look at award shows, it's going to touch on something real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You see how other races. Let's use Cardi B for example. When she comes in to see what they wearing, they doing all this dropping and WAP and all this stuff on the thing. Now let's flip and jump over to the Hispanic awards shows. How they acting all in character. They not doing anything, nothing wild. They all in gowns covering up everything. Hey, how you doing? But when you come, anything that's something around black,
It's got to be a clown show.
something like that.
A
And
clown
so, just thinking about that with the movie, as the voice of reason, it just had me thinking about that. How they have, we always got to be acting like animals and doing stuff around.
And then
it's okay.
somebody else, white presenting,
got to tell us,
got
that,
to
hey,
reel us in.
Yeah,
like
you use the
calm
white
down, Negro.
It's the white savior mentality.
Yeah, and
of movies.
I don't know the ethnicity of that actor, but his
Right.
name is Fabrizio Guido,
Yeah.
which to me presents Italian. which is white. And he kept saying how he was Mexican, but he was white presenting. Like, he could pass for white if he wanted to.
Right.
If you look at him. And so it just looked like, let this white boy calm you down. The white boy got the brains, the white girl is smart, but the two black kids, they just roll, trying to stab people and kill vampires.
Right.
And not very bright. She walks out in the middle of the night in the dark in New Orleans, walking home.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, I said, I'm not sure. I don't know the dynamics of their neighborhood, and I don't know how it works in New Orleans. And I live in Hercules, which is a pretty nice city, but I'm still not going to go outside in the middle of the damn night by myself as a woman and just be walking and strolling and walking.
Your brother not with her, nobody walking home. It's like...
That was crazy. And then her brother, when she went out dressed up, remember when she went to go to the house with the little white girl, her brother is like, where are you going? Come back or don't come back too late. Like,
don't get out too late.
No, so nobody cares that she's what?
They don't really care about
that's what it seemed like. But I feel like that's why her character was problematic from top to bottom, because I felt like what you were trying to say, and I'm gonna wheel back so you can understand my theory, is that if you are presenting all of these problematic things that you may think are based in truth in African American culture, then you have to present an honest, clear picture of the problem.
Right.
Because we won't know how to solve it.
Tell the story.
I feel like if you letting her go out, we do sometimes let our young girls go out, but it's not just because she's African American or because she's dark. Right. It's usually because she is tough, she's loud, she know how to command authority, she probably know how to fight. And so here you are,
and she was
none of this, and she's walking around by herself, somebody's little princess that you be like, she definitely need to be in the house because somebody will turn her into what we're associating her with. You know what I'm saying?
She's only 16.
Yeah, that was crazy. Goodness. And then she sees the vampire and she's, hey!
Eating
get off of them! I was like, what is that?
Then the car come by.
That don't make no sense.
Honk, they don't get out to help her, take to the hospital.
Yeah, which we know now was Bobino. That was his Cadillac.
That was his Cadillac.
And so he was like, leave her alone, she ain't a crackhead, basically. We only want crackheads. I don't know, that was crazy. But overall, because I don't want your episode to become 2-3 hours. But overall, I found it entertaining for sure. It was entertaining.
We did like
it was just problematic on so many levels. But the reason I even watched it in the first place, because like I said, it was clearly an all-black vampire movie. But I watched the trailer, and when she tells him that she was attacked by homeless vampires, and he goes, bitch. Yeah. I was cracking up, and I was like, I gotta watch this, because he's gonna be hilarious.
Right.
And he was. And then, okay, so for my last question to you two, who are vampire connoisseurs, how can y'all explain to me the last scene when the boy comes back and he's a vampire now? Like, I don't know, I don't understand how he didn't turn immediately. How they had a funeral and all this, and he got buried and all that, and then he comes back as a vampire. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, they really didn't explain that a lot, because there's usually sometimes they get bit, and then you leave them there and they're done. But he got they dang near destroyed him.
Yeah,
what it looked like.
Yeah,
and feeding on him.
Yeah,
so that'd be like you usually would kill somebody, but if they bite you to turn like he did to her in the room, bit her again or whatever. Him, and see, they didn't go into it. Was it a closed casket?
Right. It just I didn't understand.
So many unanswered questions, which is why at the end when he came back, or was she hallucinating? Was she doing that and biting?
Yeah,
was she seeing something? You know what I'm saying?
And I still don't understand how she didn't become a vampire. I mean, okay, I guess because they didn't kill her when they bit her. But it just, I thought when you got bit by a vampire, you turn into a vampire.
I thought that she was going to. I thought that she was going to turn into like a Wesley Snipes type character, Buffy the Vampire, something like a Daywalker, but she had like powers that she'd be fighting or something because she was bit.
Yeah.
But she didn't have the eyes, the teeth.
Yeah, I didn't.
But then
understand.
the other girls that was coming out the room, out the house, they was just coming out rubbing their neck.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I just feel like if it's rules, like then it should be rules.
They fed like wolves.
And if it's rules, then it should be rules. Like because the girl, the vampire, the what was her name? Grania, the white girl who did the vampire book club, she was saying there are rules. They can't come in. There are rules. And then they just came in, and she was like, "Oh, I thought there were rules, but I guess not." Huh? Like,
but when they said who invited her in, they said who invited when they jumped all in the window and all that type of stuff.
Right?
Who invited them in?
Yeah.
And it was her brother. Remember, he said, "Oh, I didn't know who that was. I told him he could come in." They was. And that's
did he?
That's
okay.
why they stormed the house.
I don't remember hearing.
Who invited them in? Because you got to invite the vampire in for them to come.
Yeah,
in.
That's what I thought. Okay, because I was confused. I didn't hear them say that.
Yeah, and so the last scene when he popped out, it's again, this raises too many questions from a standpoint of a vampire type movie for us watching movies, But I like how we delved into. Everything. This was a good one, y'all. This is good. It may be a little controversial, but hey, it's okay to have these conversations. We got to be scared. We got to stop being scared to have conversations about movies and look at and not just take everything for face value. You got to be able to look, and you got to be able to dissect things because we got kids. Yeah, we're adults. We're old enough to see this type of stuff, but the subliminals, as we were growing up, it's stuff in our head that's subliminal. That we don't even realize we do now, but
Images
as we're becoming more awake
mm-hmm.
and more, we understand this stuff. So we need to have these. So it's going to be episodes. We're going to be changing this up, and they're probably going to be some guests. They're probably going to be on. They're going to be my movie people when we delve into some movies, and we're going to really get down to the culture. We're going to get down to the essence, the writers. We're going to look at everything like we did and break it down so that we can hopefully bring and share some light. And we're just bringing questions. YouTube, we're just bringing questions and questioning stuff. This is no hate speech. This is nothing like that. You guys, everybody just have difference of opinions, and we want to get that more. And so if you guys want to be a part of it, you want to come on in, hit me at info@hiswillofficial.com. You guys can, make sure you guys like, comment down below, subscribe, all that good stuff, share, hit the notification bell. And like I say, y'all, thank you for y'all coming in. Thank y'all. We're going to definitely do this some more and more. But y'all know what I say. Like I always say, peace and mohair grease. You dig? Woo-wee. And I'm out like a sprout. No doubt.